I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual.
起立，面向佛堂，参加三鞠躬、一鞠躬、再鞠躬、三鞠躬，参加各位点传世一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Please be seated.
So, what is chapter 6? In case you missed it last time, it's a very short chapter. It's only got 6 lines. And as I pointed out last time, it's actually 3 sets of 2 lines each. And you can tell that there's a couple of repeating characters there that provides a clue as to how it's divided up. Last time, we did not quite get to the halfway point. We were just before that, at line 3, speaking, discussing the gait of the mystic female. So this is the point where we will, rewind a little bit and then continue our discussion. Okay, so I do want to comment on these 2 characters a little bit more, and the relationship between these 2 characters with these 2 characters. So first of all, what are they? In line 1, the last 2 characters, 不死. 不 means no or not. It's a negation. 死 means dead, to die, or death. Yes, it can be adjective, it can be noun, it can be verb, depending on how it's used. So, no death, translated as undying. This is connected to these 2 characters, which the next to last character there is mystic or mysterious or mystical, and then the last character there is the character for female, a general term for female. So that's the reason why it's translated as mystic female. So I want to draw a connection between undying and mystic female. Undying you can think of as immortality, to not die. So immortality, are we talking about the potion of immortality from ancient Taoist traditions? Well, actually not. I'm actually talking about just immortality in a very conventional, very natural sense. When I talk about immortality, you may think of deities, you may think of, Dracula, the vampires who will continue to live, on screen in goth novels and television shows, right? No, that's not what I'm talking about either. The immortality I'm talking about has nothing to do with the supernatural, like vampires or deities. I'm talking about a very everyday, natural, conventional, normal kind of immortality. What am I saying? Well, take a look here. Immortality may not be supernatural. We see it all the time, all around us. We see it every single day. What am I talking about? Does anyone have a guess? Well, I won't keep you in suspense. We see it all the time. Not immortality for a particular living thing. We don't really see that. Maybe in the world of microorganisms, we have microorganisms that basically go on forever, but at the scale in which we live, in our world, in the natural world, we don't see living things lasting forever. We certainly do see living things like, turtles or certain trees that last for a very long time. But very long time is longevity and not immortality. But when you think in terms of the species, or even just family, then suddenly you can have longevity. Indeed, you can have immortality. What does that mean? Well, it just means that individual life forms, you and me, individual living things, the time comes and we will go away. life comes to an end. That's the way it is. But the species as a whole, or your family, continues on generation after generation. So there you go. That's a very naturalistic, very normal, very conventional kind of immortality. Again, it's all around us. We see it all the time. A person's life will come to an end, but the human species continues on, generation after generation. You can also say, well, my family, my biological lineage continues on generation after generation. And it doesn't have to be, necessarily by you. It could be by other members of your family tree that continues on to extend that into the future. So that's immortality. It's a very real kind of immortality. So, question, how is that immortality accomplished? How can we achieve that kind of immortality? Well, again, not keeping anyone in suspense, we all know what enables that form of immortality to continue on. It's the power to give birth. So it's generation after generation, and that is a miraculous power primarily in females. And now you can see immortality having a direct connection to mystic female. Now, that's one aspect of it, but I also want to extend it even further and say that this chapter is not about giving birth, okay? Giving birth is only one aspect of it, and there are many other aspects. So that's what we want to explore. And there's a part of it that's very important to you, whether or not you are of the female gender. It's extremely important for all of us, for every human being. So let's get to line 3, the gate of the mystic female. Okay, so what is that? Let's take a look. So we covered this briefly last time, that we can break down the 4 characters one by one to transcribe them literally. We've got the first character meaning mystic, the second character meaning female. So far, everything's the same as before. Then we have a character which is the equivalent of the apostrophe S in English. And then the last character is a door, a portal, a gate. So the transcription becomes the mystic female's door or gate. All right, so what does that mean? The door or the gate or the portal is what you come to first whenever you approach a house. So here it means the initial or the first manifestation of the transcendent force that we call the mystic female. And what is that? It's nothing less than the overall concept of creation. So, as I mentioned, giving birth is one form of creation. It is not the only form. So, I'm about to get into that much more deeply, but let me prep everybody by going through line 4. It's called the root of heaven and earth. This is probably the most important line of this entire chapter. So literally, let's break it down into 5 English words. Is, that corresponds to the first character, call, second character there, and then heaven or sky, and then earth or ground, and then the last character, gun, is root. So altogether, it's called heaven, earth, root. What? Well, it is called the root of heaven and earth. And here, root refers to the source of universal creation. So heaven and earth is another way to speak of the universe or existence or reality. So when you talk about the root of heaven and earth, the root in a plant is how the plant can grow. So the trunk of a tree, the branches, the leaves, the fruits, the flowers, all of these things ultimately stem from the root. So everything in heaven and earth, the universe, existence itself, reality itself, they all stem from the root, the source of universal creation. So hopefully, everybody is following me so far, and we're about to go deeper into this. Let me also say that in today's material, I find that this can be especially challenging, especially deep, in that it goes into the many layers of meaning, and it goes deep into the nature of existence itself. So I think for those of you who like to contemplate philosophical issues, there's a lot to chew on in today's presentation. So before we get into the different layers of meaning, let me talk about the common error regarding the gate of the mystic female. The common error is to interpret the gate or the door in terms of biological reproduction. So some would even present this as like a really deep insight. Whoa, guys, listen, I figured out the secrets of the Tao. The gate of the mystic female is all about biological reproduction because, like after all, we all came to this world because, our mom, the mother, everyone's mother, she gave birth. And therefore you emerge from the birth canal entering into this world. That's the door right there, man. Okay, this is what I say. This is one way to separate authentic understanding from smug dabblers. Wow, am I being kind of harsh? Well, not really, because whenever I encounter people who present this as a deep insight, they're usually patting themselves on the back. Hey, look what I figured out. This is like the secret of the Tao. No, it's one part of it. It's not the whole picture. Reproduction, biological reproduction, is one facet of creation. There are many things that come about through other processes, other than the process of giving birth. So, as an example, when you come up with an idea, when you come up with an invention, if that was to take off, it can have all kinds of ramifications. You can have a product that you develop. You can have a startup. If you are an entrepreneur, it can be a company that you form around that invention. Now, later on, someone may look at the product and say that is your brainchild. Well, yeah, we can, metaphorically speaking of you, the inventor, giving birth to the invention. But that in that particular process, it came through the power of the mind to envision, to invent, to be creative, not necessarily through biological reproduction, obviously. So that accounts for so many things in our world that it would be a very narrow view to think that when Lao Tzu talked about the gate of the mystic female, that it was only about biology. No, it's not. It's about everything. It's about everything surrounding us. Some of it, living things, you, me, yeah, we all came from biological reproduction, no doubt about it, but there's so many other things that are not the result of biological reproduction. So I want to clear that up first and foremost, and then I present the different levels of the meaning. So what do we mean when we talk about the root of heaven and earth? So number one, in the world overall, root refers to the source of everything, living, tangible, or otherwise. What am I saying? Living or otherwise. That is, organic or inorganic. So we have plenty of things. We have rocks. We have inorganic minerals. We have metal, etc. We have many things that are not living things, but they are things, nonetheless. They're part of the myriad things that occupy the same universe that we do. Now, many of these things, living or non-living, are tangible. You can reach out and touch them. But there are also plenty of things in our world, in our lives, that are intangible. The feeling of friendship is intangible. The feeling of, well, anything is intangible. All the feelings that you have for absolutely everything under the sun, you can't touch those feelings. We have things that are not feelings that are also intangible, like music. Music, well, you can't really feel, you can't really touch it, you can't lift it, it doesn't weigh anything, but it's there. It's part of our world, and it's an important part of our world. Where would we be without music? But that's an intangible too. So everything has a source, whether tangible or otherwise, intangible. So when I say everything, I really do mean everything. So it is only when we restrict our attention to nature specifically that the root of heaven and earth refers to the source of life. Okay? Now, in the human mind, the root is the source of all your thoughts, ideas, plans, inspirations, aspirations, everything you think about, no matter what that happens to be. What is the source of that? Well, I don't know, but I call it the Tao. Okay? So when you work your way through that sequence, the world overall, nature, the human mind, you come upon this startling realization that, hey, this chapter is really about the overall concept of creation or creativity. And that's why, despite the term mystic female, the concept actually applies to everyone. It's about the creative Tao in you. So even if you are not a female, mystic or otherwise, even if you are a male, maybe a mystic male, I don't know. If you are a male, you can, quote unquote, give birth to an idea. You can come up with a new way of doing things. You can present a new thought, a new concept, thus giving birth to them, or perhaps create a theory. All of these things are within the realm of universal creation, and yet you don't have to be a mystic female to do it, but the force that is within you that is associated with the act of creation, we call it the mystic female. So in every female, there's both male and female energies. In every male, there's both male and female energies. That's what makes this Tao apply to everyone. That's what makes it universal, truly universal. So keep this in mind. It's about the creative Tao in you. So we're about to delve into an advanced concept in the Tao. And this goes back to the Platform Sutra. This goes back to something that the sixth patriarch, Huimen, has said. And I want to draw especially a lot of attention to it because I feel like this is the key. This is so important. So what did the sixth patriarch say exactly that is so important? This is this right here. He said, 自性能生万法. What does that mean? Well, let me provide a literal translation first. So if I were to translate that literally into English, we would get this. 自性, the self-nature, 能生, can give rise to 万法, 10,000 dharmas. Okay, it's now in English, but I know for a lot of people it's still not really clear. What is that? What does that mean exactly? The self-nature can give rise to 10,000 dharmas. Let me explain. When we talk about the self-nature, we're referring to your true self. If you like, you can think of it as the soul, but the way I explain it is always that your true self is that which never changes, that which is always you, no matter what else about you changes. So there's something that is you eternally, no matter what. No matter if you change your appearance, if you change your name, if you grow up, grow old, grow sick, become healthy, whatever. No matter what about you changes, there's an ineffable you that is always there. Inexplicably always there. Always you, the true self. So that true self is the ultimate source. The ultimate source of what? The 10,000 dharmas. That means all the manifestations in your life, positive or negative. So let me put that up so we can all see it. 自性能生万法. The self-nature can give rise to 10,000 dharmas. Your true self is the ultimate source of all the manifestations in your life, positive or negative. I want to emphasize positive or negative because I know a lot of times people would like to take credit for the positive. Yeah, I did that. That was me, you know. But then the negative, well, that was done to me. That was something that really bad that somebody did. Someone sabotaged me, you know, someone bullied me, someone, you know, stabbed me in the back, blah, blah, blah. Here, I'm actually saying, no, you take credit for the good things, you take blame for the bad things. You do both equally. So let me expand on that just a little bit. On the negative aspect of it, this includes all your problems, all your troubles. So the illusion is that others are to blame. The illusion is that other people have done it to you. You know, it wasn't me. It's the government. It's, you know, the opposing political party. It's my boss. It's my neighbor. It's what? You don't think it's my boss or my neighbor? You don't know what kind of people they are. Boy, let me tell you. And then complain. That is the illusion. And that's the illusion that many people suffer under. The reason why it's the cause of suffering is because when you are assigning the source to an entity outside of yourself, you feel helpless. You feel like there's nothing you can do because other people are going to continue on being jerks to you, and there's nothing you can do to change them. They won't magically become great people, nice people, courteous people all of a sudden. They're going to continue being just as rude and inconsiderate as they are right now. So what are you going to do about it? It's all hopeless. It's all helpless. It's so depressing. That is not the Tao. The Tao is to point out that you are the architect of everything, including all that is negative. Therefore, the power is within you to do something about that, to redesign Mr. Architect or Ms. Architect, as the case may be. But let's cover the positive side too. This also includes all the good that you have done. You are the originator and recipient for all of it. So what is the illusion? The illusion is that you're doing it for other people. You've done good. You've done some good. You look to yourself as the originator. You take credit for that. But you feel like the recipients, the beneficiaries of your good deeds, your good actions, your positive contributions is not you, other people. Other people benefit from the good that you have done. That's the illusion. So I know people are going to be like, you know, but wait a minute, other people do benefit from what I have done. What are you talking about? And I'm going to say that, well, you're actually the recipient for the good that you have done. And I will explain. I will explain exactly what the sixth patriarch meant when he got into all this. So some of this, you guys, is not going to be intuitively obvious. And that's the reason why it's the Tao. If it was simple, if it was conventional, it would not be regarded as being so special and so deserving of in-depth study. Let's move on, and I shall explain. I want to use this cartoon here, this comic, to illustrate the point. And yeah, I know it's all in Chinese, but that's okay. I will explain. This is kind of fun. Here, what we have is a scene where a student of the Tao on the left is speaking to a master of the Tao on the right. What are they saying? Well, first, the student of the Tao says, well, I see that in the Tao community, there are many things that need to be done. So I'm thinking about helping out. Okay? And the Tao master says, no, don't really need your help. So, surprised, the student is like saying, why are you speaking in such an unreasonable way? And the master says, well, the Tao community belongs to everyone. So where does this help come from? And if you don't take any action to help someone else will be taking action, so where does that help come from? And if you are willing, unwilling, everybody is just going along with the karmic flow, following karmic affinity, then where does the help come from? And if there's merit that's been accomplished as the result of these actions, then you have done it and you have received it. You have done the good and you have received the good. So where does the help come from? So the master is just asking a series of questions, basically to open up your thinking. Then the master says, not to mention all of the other factors that get mixed in to this whole idea of helping out. Other factors such as arrogance, such as making demands, such as self-centric, me, oriented thinking, and so on. So, finally, the master says, when you have clarity on these various issues, then you can help yourself. So, I think that's very profound. And I think it has a very important point. So often, when we decide to contribute to help, we are thinking of ourselves as being in a superior position, reaching down to help other people in sort of a condescending way, even maybe just a little bit. So that is what this is speaking to. So let me expand further on this, and I hope you found this to be interesting. Now, remember, this is we're wading in advanced concept waters, so some of this is not going to be easy to get through. So let me point this out. Most mainstream religions teach people to help others, and most people think in this conventional way. That should come as no surprise. No matter where you go, any church, any temple, that's what you will hear. Oh, we should help people. Yeah, everybody, we should help people. And, in some churches, they will further add, you should also help me by, generous contribution. But that's kind of a different issue. Let's continue on here. This idea of help. The Tao transcends the ordinary by pointing out that when you think in that conventional way, then perhaps, not always, but maybe, just maybe, there's going to be other factors involved, as the master pointed out, such as mentally, you place yourself higher than others. Me helping, you receiving my help. Me higher, you lower. So right away, that is placing separation between yourself and other people and different levels, distinguishing yourself as being somehow deserving of praise, deserving of recognition, somehow better, quote unquote better. Or you may imagine some sort of importance or significance in your good deed. Like, if it wasn't for me, this will not be done. Or if it wasn't for me, it wouldn't be done like this. So, see, I'm indispensable. What I did, that was important. People have people have this deep-seated need to feel important. So they will invest it into the work that they have done to, quote unquote, help other people. So again, they do not realize one important thing in the Tao, and that is, if you do not exist, or if you have aimed your effort elsewhere, then you quickly find out that you are not so indispensable after all, that you, like me, like everyone else, can be replaced. So how significant, how important is it really? That's something to contemplate. And if, with the first 2 points, you're thinking that there's more to this idea of being humble than I originally thought, then you're on the right track. Number 3, you may feel entitled to some kind of recognition. Look what I have done. Everybody look at me. Me, 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 me. It was me that helped. Me and nobody else. That's right. I did it all on my own. Because I am just so special. So shine the spotlight on me, please. It's all about me. Okay, hopefully you got tired of me saying me. After all that, and you realize that this is oftentimes infused into this help that people provide to others. Lastly, you may be keeping internal track of the score. What's the score? Well, they've done something for me. I'm going to do something for them, tit for tat. It's going to be quid pro quo, what goes around comes around, and, keeping track of score, keeping track of how much I have done, how much other people have done. And it's not just a reciprocal thing. Sometimes it's a comparison or competitive thing. Like, my buddy over there, he did 10. I'm going to do 11. So I can pull ahead. I can be, at the front of the pack. I can be the one that's done more than anyone else. That comparison is one of the manifestations of ego. And indeed, everything that we're talking about here traces back to ego. And I hope you are beginning to see the point that the Tao Master made. So, bottom line, here's the sort of the mini summary for this whole idea. This is the difference between the Tao and religions. A lot of times I say, well, the Tao is not really a religion, it's different. Well, people ask me to explain what the difference is. Here's an example. So the perspective in the Tao is always internal, has to be internal, has to be driven from within, not external. External meaning driven from the need for recognition, driven for the need of external validation and approval, right? So I find that when people who have been studying the Tao for a while, but not really getting this concept, it can manifest in different ways. So as an example, perhaps one particular individual is asked to speak at a gathering to provide his insights, and I may say that, well, listen, I think people will benefit from, the thoughts that you've had. If you can speak at this gathering it will be great. Then sometime later, the person who's been invited might say that, oh, sorry, can't help you. In that one simple phrase, you can see, based on this slide and the previous slide, that this particular person is really still mired in the illusion. You know, thinking of his speaking at the gathering as a valuable contribution and as a way of helping other people with all 4 points deeply set in his mind. So, wow, it's not easy to free yourself from this illusion, but I think just by all of us sitting together, pointing this out, I think this will become, I'm hoping that this will become something that you think about next time you decide to help someone. Now, there's a little bit more just to kind of drive the point home. So think about what we usually say. Hey, listen, man, I'm just trying to help you out, okay? I'm doing you a favor. There you go. Doing you a favor is a manifestation of keeping track of scores. I'm doing you a favor. You're going to owe me a favor. So that's, it reveals itself in the way that we speak, in the words that we choose. I'm doing this for your own good. You know, I'm helping you because I'm doing this for your own good. You should be thanking me. So that's the illusion. Here's the truth. Whatever you do for yourself. In one respect, this is absolutely true if you contemplate the oneness that is at the fundamental level of existence that connects all of us together. When you mistreat other people, you have mistreated yourself. When you are good to other people, you have been good to yourself because of that interconnectedness for all of us at the most fundamental level of existence. At that level, we are all one. There's no distinguishing, okay, well, I'm going to help you out, so can you help me out? Well, we're helping ourselves out. So why do we even say that? Well, when we come to this world together to help one another, we're leveraging the illusion of separation, you know, like you, me, we're different, but hey, listen, I'll go the extra mile for you. I'll do this for you. Just for you, I will do this. This is for the creation or resolution of karmic obligation. And it's all done for ourselves. Let me give you a final example that I think will clarify this once and for all. Imagine you're a star athlete and you say, yeah, today I got to put in some extra work. I got to practice for one additional hour. You know, in addition to my usual training, today I have to practice for an extra hour for the coach. You know, the coach wants me to do it. I got to do it. What's really going on here? Hold a second. This is the perfect illustration of the above when the athlete says, I got to practice one more hour today for the coach. What's really going on? The athlete is using the illusion of separateness to practice for the coach, when in fact, who does the practicing? Who does the extra practice? It's the athlete. Who benefits from the extra practice? It's the athlete. So at the end of the day, it's just the athlete. You are the athlete. You are the star athlete. You are maybe thinking, I'll do this good thing because Derek said so. So I'll do it for Derek. But no, you're doing it for yourself and you're benefiting yourself. You are the star athlete. Remember that. Okay. Well, like I said, more of an advanced concept to wrap your head around. So let's continue on. We're heading toward the end of the chapter. So, and I'll tackle line 5 in 2 parts. I'll start with the last 2 characters first. And I'll break them down one by one, literally, as if exists. What does that mean? So the translation says, it flows continuously, daily perceptible. It is the Tao. And the Tao is in the guise of the mystic female, the root of universal creation, heaven and earth. It's wearing all of those different guises, having all of those different assumed names, but it's the Tao we're talking about. It's universal creation we're talking about, the ultimate source that we're talking about, and the Tao is you, or you are the Tao. So the Tao seems like it's sort of there and sort of not, because you can't perceive it physically. You can't point at something, you know, hey, a ray of light, that's the Tao. No, that's not the Tao. If you can see it, you know, if it's sort of like a laser beam. A laser beam, normally you can't see it. You have to sort of like shine the laser through a room that's very dusty, then you can see it. And that's what you're seeing is the laser beam bouncing off of the dust particles. So the Tao is kind of like that. You can perceive the effect of the Tao, but you cannot perceive the Tao directly. So it's like it's sort of there. I can feel it, I can sense it, but I can't see it. I can't touch it. So what about the first 2 characters? They're repeated characters. So those 2 characters together depict a continuous flow, which is the nature of the Tao. So think of it as a mountain stream that's flowing continuously. So if the stream is something that we cannot see or hear, but can sometimes sense, then you have an idea that metaphorically is what the Tao is like a mountain stream, always flowing, and unlike the mountain stream, which you can hear, and then when you walk closer, you can see it, the Tao, sort of like the stream, it's there, flowing, but sort of not, because you can't see it and you can't hear it. Okay, now, stick with me for just a little bit longer to the next insight. With your mind locked on the idea of a stream, this mountain stream, it should be easy for you to map it to the stream of consciousness. The stream of consciousness is the stream of the thoughts that come through in your mind. All the thoughts that you think of, you know, all the great ideas you have, all the rationalization that you provide to yourself, all the emotional response that you have in reaction to the other people and things happening around you, all of those are your thoughts. So when you are able to zero in on the idea of the stream of consciousness, it's actually a confirmation that this chapter is about creativity in general, not about biological reproduction, but about creativity, of which biological reproduction is one manifestation of creation or creativity. Okay, moving on. So let's talk a little bit about the stream of consciousness. Normally, your thoughts come and go. The flow in the stream of consciousness is constant and continuous. You can't stop it. You can temporarily disassociate with the stream of consciousness, such as when you meditate. Now, there's always something going on in the mind. Maybe it's at a subconscious level. You know, maybe it's just regulating your heartbeat, your breathing, blinking, etc. But there's something going on. And when you sleep, you don't have, you know, waking consciousness anymore, but you are dreaming. There's still the stream of consciousness is always flowing. You can't stop it. What you can do is to direct flow and utilize it in a constructive way. So reservoir would be one example. And in the flow or accumulating the power of the stream consciousness into the reservoir, which you can then use selectively. Generate power for that are connected on the grid. So all of this overall idea. So stream of consciousness, it's always there. The Tao is about recognizing the flow, recognizing the vast creative potential of the flow, and then teach or suggest ways that you can direct it and then utilize it in a constructive way, in a way that is to your own benefit. Okay, this is the last line that we're tackling. So the last character there is Qin. And what does it mean? It means diligent, industrious. But in the ancient context, it actually does not mean diligent or industrious. It's a related meaning to exhaust something, to use it up. It's a related meaning from a linguistic perspective because when you are very diligent in doing something, you will finish. You will exhaust the possibilities of doing anything anymore. So to be industrious, to be diligent, is to use up the things that you need to do, is to exhaust the possibilities. So in ancient times, in this case, it means to be exhausted, to be used up, and when you put a no in front of it, it's inexhaustible. It's never used up. So, 不勤 in modern Mandarin, can mean not hardworking or just lazy, but here it just means not exhaustible, not used up, and that's a reference to the Tao as an infinite resource. So the first two characters, 用之, utilize it. This is what we've been talking about all these years that we've been together discussing the Tao Te Ching, that the Tao is a practical way of life. That at the end of the day, it's always about how do we use it? How do we use it for our own benefit? Here, it says, when you utilize it, the power of the Tao is never exhausted. You can use as much of it as you like, and you can use even more than you are using now. So, if you think of the beginning of this chapter about the valley, now you know it's about the mindset of being open, being receptive, accepting, being helpful, assisting. So the mindset of openness, receptivity, acceptance, assistance, etc. So think of all that. And then think of the Tao as the source. Not the source of the universe necessarily, but the Tao within yourself, the source of everything in your life. So this is really the major point. At the end of the chapter, this is where we bring everything together. So think about you yourself, the physical vessel, meaning the body. You're the valley. Your soul is the spirit of the valley. So that's at the very beginning of this particular chapter. Then, when you are open, receptive, tolerant, nurturing, helpful, like the valley, you are only returning to your true nature. It's the nature of the valley to be open, receptive, tolerant, nurturing, helpful, etc. So when you are that way as well, you're just being your true self. You're just being you. When you are one with the original nature, Spirit of the Valley, that means you are in touch with your true power. The power, what is that true power? It's the power of the roots of heaven and earth, of being the source, this inexhaustible, infinite source. The ability to tap into yourself as the infinite source of any manifestation that you envision. So this is pointing to how incredibly powerful you are as a manifestation of the Tao, as a reflection of the Tao, as the equivalent of the Tao at the personal level. So hiding in all of that verbiage, we can find some pretty powerful stuff about life. So now, speaking of life, I want to give you an example with the, we only have time for this one last thing, one last bit, and then we have to do the summary. So, if you can follow along, the Tao or universal creation, reflected at a personal level, is the power to create real change. When I say real change, that is as opposed to temporary, illusory change. If you have changed something about yourself, but a week later you revert back to the way it used to be, then can you really say that you have changed at all? On the other hand, if you have made a change and it's a change for good, it's a change that stays with you for years and years and years for the rest of your life, then yeah, I'll say that you've really made a change. That's a real change. So then, when you realize that the root of heaven and earth actually applies to you, you gain the ability to make a true decision about your life. What is a true decision? A true decision is that which creates a real change. So, I have one example for you. There's a gentleman who he reminds me of a friend of mine, a coworker that I had. He was roughly the same size, and he decided to make a change in himself. So this is, let me show you what he looked like before he made that true decision for real change, lasting change. This is him. He's chosen not to reveal his name, so I don't know who he is. I just know that he has revealed himself. He's sharing with everyone that this is what he went through. This is what he was before. When he made a real decision, a true decision for real change, this is how he ended up. This is what he looked like today. So between the two is about a span of roughly a year. So he was able to drop his weight by 100 pounds for 6 months, and then 100 pounds again for the next 6 months. So overall, he's lost more than 200 pounds. So, like I said, I have a friend who was like that. He did not make a true change. He did not make a true decision. Therefore, he has died at the age of 51. He did not realize what it means to do this. He didn't understand the mechanism to making a real lasting change in the Tao. So when people ask him, how did you make it happen? Well, he tells them that it all started a couple years ago when he took his family to Universal Studios. He was a big fan of Harry Potter, and he knew that Universal Studios had a new Harry Potter area. He was so excited. He was so looking forward to it. He wanted to check it out. He wanted to play. He wanted to experience Harry Potter in person. But he was like this. It was very difficult for him to get around. When he got there, he realized that he wasn't going to be able to see all of it because every step he took was difficult. In order for him to get from point A to point B, he had to plan it out strategically. okay, I'm gonna like go over here, and then I can sit down at this bench, and then from here I can go over here. Well, I can find another place to sit down. So he has to take his time, and he ended up not seeing even the majority of Harry Potter. He only saw a small fraction of it. He ended up just resting in a restaurant nearby because it's got air conditioning. He was so hot, he was burning up. So months after that, he decided, I have to do this. So he went on a 1-year journey of basically calorie reduction. He followed a fad diet, but the true factor of his success was his decision. So when people asked him, people always want to know, so what diet did you follow? What book did you read? Can you share that book with me? Well, they missed the point. And he says this. He says, there's this movie called Apollo 13. It's about astronauts going to the moon, and Tom Hanks plays an astronaut in that movie. In that movie, Tom Hanks is at night looking up at the moon with his wife, and Tom Hanks says, we will now forever live in a world where we have walked on the moon, like the world is completely different now. And then he turns to his wife, and then he says, it's not a miracle. We just decided to go. And then the gentleman says, I just decided to go. I just decided to go on that journey of reducing himself to a healthy state. That is a true decision. So, with that, I'm going to move forward to the end of my presentation today. So, here's a reminder. The ultimate way of changing your life, what we have just talked about, number one, you have to understand that you are the root of your own existence. Your true self gives rise to all dharmas, everything that is good, plus everything that is contrary to your wishes. Everything. We will spend more time on this next week because this is important. To fully accept your responsibility for the above is to fully accept your power and vice versa. That means if you wish to accept the power to change everything, you must fully accept your responsibility, that you are the cause of everything. Okay, so profound implications here. We'll spend more time on it later. This means you must rely on yourself to walk the path. Not on a church, not on a guru, just on yourself. Lastly, keep this in mind. True acceptance. Acceptance of what? Power. Leads to true power. Mastery of true power leads to true decision, which, I think you can complete the rest yourself, leads to true change.
Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架深鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架各位顶传十一鞠躬，斜翻一鞠躬。Well done, everybody. Thank you so much.